Resistance, Burning Skies, or as my friend and I call it, Residence. It's an inside joke. Anyway, I don't know why, but I've been putting this game off for the longest time. It's not like I hate the franchise or anything. I mean, I really enjoyed the first one. There was something about the story that caught my attention. Just the way it was told and how it was presented really left an impression on me. And although it wasn't the first FPS game I had played, it was the game that got me interested in the genre. Subsequent sequels came and went. I played some of the second one, but quickly lost interest since I felt the darker tone and nature of the first game had been lost. I know a third one came out, but by that point I had already moved on to something else. So now here we are with Resistance, Burning Skies. Where does it fit within the timeline? And is it worthy of the title name? Here's my review of Resistance, Burning Skies for the PlayStation Vita. Now I played through the game a second time just to make sure I wasn't crazy. And yes, I can confidently say this is a good looking game. It's nowhere near the quality of Killzone Mercenary, but it's a hell of a lot better than Call of Duty Declassified. Enemy models look great, as do the weapon detail and effects. They're all varied, each with a distinct look, feel, and function. To my surprise, the levels look pretty good as well. Interior shots sport nice looking detail. Smoke, fire, and falling debris help to immerse you further into the game. And although the beginning of the campaign is nothing to write home about, later levels do provide some interesting sights reminiscent of previous games in the series. Character models look great, for the most part, but some of the ones in the beginning could have used a few more polygons. The gameplay also holds a steady frame rate with very few dips, even when the screen gets crowded. But it's not all perfect. Some objects in the environment can look a little jagged, and cutscenes, although well directed, have a weird artifact thing going on. Other graphical glitches might occur from time to time, but they're few and far between. Even with these minor hiccups, it can't detract from what is otherwise a good looking game. Longtime fans will definitely recognize this as a Resistance title. And did I mention? This game is bloody. The game uses audio very sparingly, but what it lacks in musical score, it makes up for in ambient noise. The sound of lonely footsteps or the beeping of a computer system as you wander through the dark corridors adds a sense of isolation and suspense. That's not to say there isn't a musical score at all. Beautiful orchestral pieces are peppered throughout your campaign. They're not used often, but they are used in effective ways, always managing to hit all the right emotions. The same can be said about the sounds coming from the weapons. Once fired, you're treated to an assortment of lasers, bullets, and explosions. Very cool. Voiceovers are surprisingly not half bad, and if I'm being honest, they're actually pretty good. Other than that, the sound department is top-notch, regardless of what some of the other reviews say. Being one of the first games released for the PlayStation Vita, it's no surprise the developers made touch controls a requirement in some way or another. Having to take my hand off the thumbstick to fire the secondary weapon just seems so unintuitive to me. It requires that you take your eyes off the screen for a split second just to make sure you don't throw a grenade by accident. As a result, I found myself just throwing less grenades altogether, in fear of accidentally shooting off a secondary fire. To its credit, some secondary actions do work better than others, like one where you pull and drag for the crossbow. Hiding and peeking out of cover is easy enough thanks to the dual sticks, which accurately translate the feeling of playing Resistance on the PlayStation 3. Practice makes perfect, but the ability to disable touch controls would have made for a more enjoyable experience in my opinion. Other than that, it's your standard first-person shooter fare. The game takes place somewhere between the first and second Resistance. You play as Tom Riley, a New York firefighter who's been separated from his wife and daughter and now must fight through hordes of Chimera to get them back. 6 chapters of kicking Chimera ass should take you about 5 to 6 hours, depending on the difficulty. The story won't win any awards, but the gameplay is simple and fun. Levels are laid out in a linear fashion. There's no confusion here. You know exactly what you have to do in this game. Shoot whatever moves, and I'm completely fine with that. It's the perfect pocket-sized version of Resistance, and I wouldn't have it any other way. No puzzles, no backtracking, no collecting keycards, just pure action. You might be turned off upon first starting the game, but take my advice, stick with it, and it will get better. The further you get into the campaign, the more traces you'll see of that Resistance magic. Hell, by the end it even looks like the original Resistance game. One or two areas might have an objective where it's not quite clear what you're supposed to do, like finding cover to avoid an all-out attack, but the frustration never gets to the point where you'll need to look for a walkthrough on YouTube. Boss encounters were fun for the most part, usually resulting in some big explosion. Although some enemy AI can act a little strange, most of them provide just enough challenge to keep you on your toes. My biggest gripe with the campaign is the annoying checkpoint system put in place. Sometimes you'll have to replay entire sections from where you last died, and other times you'll have to listen to the same conversation before the battle takes place, which can't be skipped. The game provides a variety of different weapons that can be upgraded, although I did find myself sticking to just carbine and bullseye most of the time. The rest were more level specific, allowing you to only use them in certain areas. Nevertheless, they were all fun to use when given the chance. Resistance Burning Skies also comes with online multiplayer, which requires a separate online pass if you happen to buy the game used. Here's my advice. If you bought the game used, don't bother buying the online pass. Save yourself 10 bucks. There's just not enough people online to start a game. Matchmaking is limited, and it requires at least 4 people to actually start any kind of game. I've tried multiple times on separate occasions and was once able to find another lost soul online, yet was still unable to start a game. Although the campaign doesn't really break any new ground, there are moments in it that were truly brilliant. I can definitely tell the developers were giving it an honest effort in bringing the Resistance franchise to the PlayStation Vita. It might lack the replay value of Declassified's online multiplayer, but it more than makes up for it with a solid single-player experience. Resistance Burning Skies for the PlayStation Vita comes recommended. Alright guys, I hope you liked the review. Give me a thumbs up. Check out Burning Skies if you ever have a chance. I really enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Later.